So, as many of you know, a few of us have completed the UiPath Business Analyst Associate course. It was learning a foreign language for non-technical folks. Masai, props to you. And so now we have to take the test, right? And it's like, oh my God, I went through the stuff, but all the language can be feels a little bit intimidating. So what we've been doing is really trying to map it out onto like our business. So how I've been studying, I've mapped out all the stages, and then I'm like, okay, so I have it like in one column. And I'm like, okay, so how does this relate to my business? What are the questions I might ask? What does this parallel to in my business? Just so the language can make sense. So that's one way that I've been studying it while also applying it to my business. So we have the conversations because Ari just went in and did, right? And so we're just noting how we are learning and understanding the concepts by doing it in different ways. So it just was a great um, kickoff to a great conversation and how to make this thing make sense by applying it to our businesses. So that's the part I have. I don't know, Felicia, you have anything else to add?
I think first, thanks to Ari for being prepared on the spot to really jump in and share what she was working on from a business process perspective, because it really helped us to think differently instead of trying to cram material or retain material. It helped us to think as if we were acting as a business analyst and help her through, not help her because she was very prepared, I must say, and help us to put on that hat, wear the hat, and act logically as if we were guiding ourselves together through that process. So it was helpful because I didn't have to kind of think about what was in the material in terms of retention, but in using a practical exercise, it does help you to, extract information much more easier. Fortunately for me, some of the processes resonated with me from financial services and human resources background. So I was able to, more easily adapt to a lot of the content, but it's just retaining the terminology, which, as
Mhm.
you know, in any industry, the terminology, once you understand what's happening, the terminology tends to be more of a headache than it needs to be. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it was a great experience. And Zena's output, as you see, I mean, she does wonders to what we did on that day. I mean, this to me, we could go ahead and present it to a client right now, as a team. So I'm
Mhm.
just looking forward to everybody else's feedback on what she's produced.
And I think I know I saw Subakunti's hand up.
Yeah.
The other thing that we talked about, and I'm sure Ari, I don't want to steal any of your fire, but we talked about just some of the processes that the UiPath course had. Like we kind of skip steps, right? There are ways that we merge things together, or there are things that are not relevant for the particular client. So also, how do we adapt this in practice?
I
And
want to give you space, Sebakunzi. Was there a question related you wanted to ask before we move?
There was. I know we know what the UI path
Mm.
is, but can you just specifically say what it is in a clear-cut description so we know what when it transcribes, we know what UiPath business analyst framework, just so we know how to apply it to the individual genres and everything.
So
Oh,
I'm going to defer to Amal on this because
oh,
I
come
know.
on.
Come on.
I wanted to hear what y'all had. I know the
Yeah,
answer.
maybe Ari, you ready? Maybe Ari's ready.
I'm gonna say
See?
no. We got certified graduates here with credentials. Let's see what we get out of it. But if there's gaps, I'll close them. Yeah.
All right. So I guess as we go through this, Bakunzi, we will explain it, and at the end we will summarize it in a way that you can have it almost as an elevator pitch if you wanted to. Does that work?
Thank you. And the only reason I do ask is someone, I've had several people say, well, what is the UI path? What is it? And I don't know how to
Mm.
do not a 30-second elevator pitch, but just explain it concisely, like what is it?
So
Okay.
let me do this, Sebakunzi, without stealing any thunder. without branding the capabilities of a product, the fundamental elements of all robotic process software is emulating human behavior with other software. So
Like
the
only
core,
Amal could say
come on now,
it.
brother. Come on. Listen, it's my favorite month of the year. I'm locked in. But this is what we want to understand, right? If we can do it fundamentally and we can codify it for a robot essentially can do it. The only nuance is that it can't do it across all user interfaces. So the old school technology is bound by which user interface it's interacting with. The agentic stuff, it doesn't matter which interface you have, and that's why it's so powerful. So traditional robots, cut and paste. All the new robots, whatever we show it. That's really the fundamental differentiation between those two. Masai, keep me honest here. I see you nodding, so hopefully I passed the quiz there. But if I had to boil it down to its fundamental core, it's that. And if we look at the chief executive officers from all of the top 40 platforms, Daniel Dines, Dinesh, however you want to pronounce his name, he's Romanian. He spends way too much time in hot tubs. I met him back when I first got out of university. Daniel, unlike all of the other CEOs, thinks that everybody should have a robot. Some of the other CEOs don't think that all people deserve robots. And that is the fundamental difference around his go-to-market.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I'm going to hand over to Ari, but we're going to do this collaboratively as a conversation and using the slide deck. So let's flow. So Ari.
And I'll say first, just a little background. Like so part of like the shift for me and Kira in 2026 is like my background is in like operations, stage management, project management, event management, so systems, executions, processes, all of that. What I don't have is like coding and like that kind of technological background. But yeah, so that's just like kind of where we came from. And so for in 2026, Kira and I decided really to like not diverge, but like stop doing a lot of things together. Like that's not really true, but like really me going and like taking care of and really trying to establish like operational procedures and back end while she really focuses on creating the product and getting it to the people. So that's part of where this all kind of came from. Um, yeah, so I don't know how we want to do this. But I guess we kind of started on Wednesday, like Dr. Charmaine said, like going through all the different roles that are kind of listed in the UiPath um, like learning process and trying to like apply it to our real world stuff. And I just kind of said like, well, I'm doing all of the roles right now. And I think that is what a lot of us are going to end up doing, or a lot of people are going to end up doing, especially now that we have the use of like AI to be like our little coworker. Um, so yeah, so what we discussed, so Kira created this new product called, well, we're changing the name, but right now it's called the Diagnostic. And part of what we did to try to like figure out how we want it to work is the as is process. So basically, I sat Kira down and I had our granola on to transcribe our conversation, and we just talked about like what do we actually want this process to be and flow from both the customer side, like what we want their experience to be going through, and then also the back end side in terms of where do we as humans want to be involved in the process and where we don't, and where we want to automate. And so I took like that transcript, I took my own notes, I took some existing um, documentation or processes that we already had, and I fed them all into an LLM and kind of had it help me finalize like the to be process and like the descriptions. And so then I had the LLMs kind of help me um figure out, because I said I was like, I want to use like these tools. So I'm like, we're using Lovable or yeah, that one's on Lovable, PayHip, N8N, Airtable. So like I told it the tools that I was using for each part of it. And so then it was able to kind of work in those tools and how they operate like into the to-be process, and also helped kind of with naming conventions and just like consistency throughout.
So one of the powerful things that I found when we were going through this on Wednesday was there is a document called the process definition document. And some of you who were on the call when Sidel talked about workflows, and there's a video that's attached to the end of this presentation, which I can send out just to refresh your memory, is that some of these things you do organically, like Felicia was mentioning, but you didn't realize there was actually a name for it. And back in the day, not so much now, you may remember like we couldn't leave a job without having handover notes for the person before. But now, because people are just being dismissed or people are upset and frustrated, they just leave, there is no handover. So there's no continuity. So this is kind of taking us back to basics in terms of if you do want to have a robot or somebody to do the things for you, as Amal described, you got to have well-documented processes and systems to tell them what to do so that you don't create a golden prison for yourself where you are the single point of failure. And just to explain how this presentation was put together, similar to what Ari described with Granola, we recorded the session, and then we took the transcript and we put it into an LLM and asked it to turn it into a presentation that aligned what Ari was sharing with us with the steps within the UiPath framework. And so it took Ari's process and mapped it to the UiPath business analyst framework and the language. And then we just put it into a presentation tool that enabled us to spit it out. And then me being the human in the lead, I just tweaked it and put things in it to make it engaging for the stakeholders and emotionally resonate with the participants who participated in this process as well. Back to you, Ari.
Yes. So I started by going through so part of what I did with the LLM was I was like, I helped me to create a process definition document, but also an implementation plan. And so by giving it like both of those things at the same time, it really like was able to differentiate the two. Whereas before I had like asked for one or asked for the other, and like it just wasn't like they weren't syncing, they were overlapping. And so the to kind of like put it into the implementation process, like what Zena shows here, we kind of took my input, so like the transcript, the notes, and all of that, and then we matched that to create the process flow. And so I started with having like a very high level macro view of like kind of four major pieces in this workflow. The first one being like, qualification and entry, and then like onboarding and delivery and closeout. And then within that, I had it help me like identify what are things that are like automated, like emails, versus, and like what are things that like the system can take control of, rather than me or Kira doing it manually. And also one of our major uh, intentions with this is that we needed it to be not customizable. Like one of the things we're really trying to move away from is kind of like customizing each service to what like the client needs. And we're like, no, this way, it is like one process, one way of doing it, and it's the same. And therefore we also can protect our capacity because we know what it involves of us.
I just want to chime in and say Ari's being kind, and it's me who's the one who wants to make everything custom and unique. And yeah, it's just to have Ari to translate like my brain, and then okay, let's make sure we can do it over and over again and not keep creating. So just want to call myself out.
And then like one of the things, just because I know Kira and myself are really visual people, I had basically had it all kind of written out, but then I was like, this is not going to be like this is not going to be the best way for me to show and Kira like how we're doing this. And so in UiPath, they talk a lot about BPMN, process documentation and modeling, which is an existing, like well-known business standard, from I don't know when it started. And and so then I was like, okay, like I am going to use this existing system instead of trying to create my own because it is like generally universal. And I kind of like forgot that UiPath like taught us this. And then while I was kind of like creating I was like, oh right, like that's what UiPath was doing and teaching and talking about. So then I kind of did a little bit of a deep dive into BPMN. Um, and part of what was like what we really needed was to know kind of like what are the start and end events and like what are all of the things that have to take place, but also what are the actions of like the client, what are the actions of Kira or like delivery, what are the actions of me operations, and then what are the actions that the system can take care of. And so we kind of broke that out into the swim lanes, which was really helpful.
And I
Um,
just have to say, like, going through this process, because I had seen that a few times that came up on the test, and then having that conversation, it like it stuck, right? So now I know what that is. Your example of like, I can't model, I tried to model this, like you were saying, you tried to model this, you're like, uh-oh, this is not gonna work. So finding an a platform or software that could do that was powerful. And then again, so that's a story that I can connect with and relate. And so I got that part.
mhm, mhm. Totally. And that was also part of it too. I started being like, okay, I'm gonna create my own BPMN template in-house, blah blah blah. And then I was like, this is awful. Like this exists somewhere else. Like I know that. And so then it just took like, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes, kind of like searching around, trying finding one that was like free and allowed me to like do what I need. The thing that's been challenging throughout all of these is like my learning curve is so high in that like I'm learning all of these softwares. Like I'm learning Airtable, I'm learning N8N, I'm learning this modeling software. And so like that can be sometimes a little difficult, but I know like in the long run it will get easier and be worth it. Um,
Can you put the platform, I forgot the name of it.
yes,
And I
I
want to reference what like Angela said last week, like you're learning all these things now, but that's what did Angela said, like advice as some a subscription, something. But like you have all this knowledge now, right? So you can
Mhm.
leverage that. So don't, you know, you got a lot of knowledge that you've learned.
I just put the modeler in, and I know it's probably not like the best or the fastest or the easiest, but they offer a version that you can like download and just run on your desktop for free. And it was important for us to have a free tool. Um, yeah, so overcoming challenges and readiness. So yeah, so like the piece that like I don't have to do right now is like if I were doing this for a client, like so Dr. Charmain brought up like the budget, the time, and like the people involved, doing it for Art and Soul, it's just me and Kira and like I know what that means. But then like translating it out to like working with the client, like that's definitely stuff that would have to happen. And then the PDD really prevents scope creep and changes because then it helps us go back sorry, I just got distracted by the chat. It helps because so we had a moment. So Kira gets really excited when she does like new things and then likes to share and show me. And we realized quickly that as we are automating things that we can't do that anymore, because she made a lot of changes to the app that we're going to share with you guys, and it broke the automations. And then then I was like, whoa, what is all this? Like, it broke the automations, and not even just that, but it also, all of the data was coming in a different way. And so like that was a good learning, because then we're like, okay, we can never do that again.
Yeah,
And now we
I'm
know.
really glad it happened, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the UAT is also something like I haven't had to do yet, because it's just kind of like me and Kira working it out. But that is something that would have to be incorporated in if it was like a client.
And I love that that happened because, part of the UiPath course talks about documenting all the requests. Like everything has to be documented, right? Documenting all the requested changes, being able to also explore whether those changes are going to be viable or not. Like those are things that were part of the training. And now you see why, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. Before I wouldn't have really understood like the depth of why.
Let me give y'all a wee bit of grace. There's one other role in the COE called solution architect. I don't think anybody else on here is taking it, right? But the companion document is the solution design document, right? So the PDD, its love child is the SDD, right? And testing comes mastered there. So from a progression standpoint, if we're working collaboratively, your role would be complemented by a solution architect, right? So the break fix, the smoke test, the UAT test, the SA and the BA or the PA, they have to work together, right? It's both sides of the brain collaborating for break fix. So anytime the interface changes, the rules change, the data changes, right? A business exception happens, we know that the automation is going to break. Again, I want to do, these are always soft plugs for agentic, but with agentic, that doesn't happen, right? So that kind of goes away. So think about it that way. So whatever impediments you have in your current operating model, the next gen software that we're talking about, it doesn't have those same impediments because it has reasoning, right? It has cognition, and it can do self remediation. Keep going, Ari. Great job so far.
Thanks. Yeah, so building the formal PDD.
So I guess
Yeah.
I think this is a helpful piece to break down for people to understand that this is fundamental to be able to design processes that are robust. And it's a step that's often missed when we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And you can do that when you're not trying to automate things or standardize things. But once you start thinking about automation, these things are like your Bible, and this will save you a lot of headache and time in the future. And also, it's that if you think about Amal's book, Conscious Coding, or I'm mostly butchering the title, Amal, but just the idea that you're embedding an approach to design from the very beginning. That is what helps things to be more environmentally friendly and more ethical and more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, so this was so our process was kind of phase one of the our client diagnostic and qualification, which is our like entry point for any service. And so we needed a workflow that would self-qualify the leads, because we really wanted to not have like the book a call be our like first touch point or like the way in. And so we wanted to process the payments and automate the initial onboarding and qualification. And then it would kind of, once they're qualified, then they pay. And then once they pay, they get sent their materials that they have to complete themselves. Once a threshold is met, the system tells us that, and so on and so forth. And so it was helpful, because our current state was like very manual and not and undocumented. It was just like, how do we do this? Like Kira does this part, I do this part. Neither of us know how to do each other's part, and all of that. And so we needed it to be more systematized. Especially because also we've had a bad record of trying to bring other people into our organization and having them be able to kind of jump on to how our brains work. And so I'll say, we were kind of talking about like how long it took me to kind of like create all of this. And it was like about a week. Like I was doing a couple other things, but it was like my primary focus for about a week to kind of create all the documentation, um, create the initial BPMN diagram. And Zena was saying that like previously, like that would take someone potentially like a month. And so it kind of like talks to that point of like you're won't be replaced by AI, you're going to be replaced by someone who uses AI. Um, yes. Um, yeah.
So this is just the components of it. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying this is just like kind of the components of it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so this was kind of yeah, this is kind of like the success factors. Like, so in theory, if I hand my PDD and everything over to someone else, they should be able to follow it without me being there. And so that's like kind of the ultimate goal. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't do this because again, it was internal, but it's a good thing to do. Like, you know, in like we were like, this is the thing that we need to automate first. It wasn't really a what about this one or this one or this one? Um, yeah. Yeah. The as is versus the to be process, we actually kind of like merged that into one conversation. And so I think thinking of it in that way was helpful, as opposed to like two very disparate conversations. Um, yes. And this was just kind of how someone like the automation was is going to like is being built based on the PDD. Um, yeah, so this is kind of like a overview of the SOP,
What does SOP stand for?
standard operating procedure or process. Um, yeah. And
So,
it ends up being like,
so Ari, here's where you guys need a slide, right? So this is a combination of a RACI, right, and then an operating model, right? So these should be you should truly break these up, right? So when somebody says yes to y'all, right, you did your operational diagnostic, and now they want to know what their homework assignment is, right? RACI is the easiest framework for you to use, right? So responsible, right, informed, accountable, all the fun parts of the RACI, right? The CEO is always I, right? Always I, no matter what happens. So I would just say cross-reference this with a RACI model, and
mhm,
it's easy for folks to kind of understand, right? So you guys are doing discovery, right, and identification, right, or validation, and then you're going from the current state to the future state. Your key stakeholders need to know what they are responsible for throughout that workflow. So this is an amalgam of those, but you should break it out unless it's the next one coming. You need a RACI so that the humans can understand what's going on.
mhm.
And just for people just to clarify who aren't familiar with RACI, it's essentially roles and responsibilities. And we don't have it in here, but you can do it in various different. And to Ari's point, if you Google it, there's loads of templates and stuff that already exist because it's a acknowledged framework for project management. Oops. Oh, there we go. This was just, yeah, go.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, this was just an example of, so in the conversation when Ari was talking about the fact that Kira had come up with changes, it also has within the UiPath toolkit various different forms and things that you would have in order to track and document those processes. So what Kira should fill in every time she has a change is essentially a change request form, which then puts a process in place that manages not just the process, but also the relationship as well. And then I don't know, Felicia, you want to talk to this because it was like you had a question that was around return of investment and value proposition that.
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry for my bird's eye level of thinking sometimes, but just thinking just now when the mom mentioned the roles, typically the impatience is going to come from the more senior team members because they're just going to want to get the thing done. They just want to get the efficiency improved. They're just going to get the profitability sorted. So it's really important to develop that relationship in order to have them to understand step-by-step process. So two quick examples. Pre-technology, one of my leaders early in my career, sales, and I was working on 100% commission at the time, and I made the mistake of griping to her about, oh, this month wasn't very good, et cetera, et cetera. So she said, can you go away and write down what you've done all day for the past week? And my internal brain's like, go on fire. I'm trying not to react to her because I'm thinking she's trying to belittle me. But in her saying that, based on the time and the technology that existed, she was trying to get me to narrow down on where the efficiencies could come from and what I could do differently. A lesson I learned very, very quickly. And then if I fast forward to a more senior level conversation, in financial services, we were working on, the executive team was working on a disaster recovery plan together, which was a disaster in and of itself. So for financial services and health insurance, we needed to have a way to ensure that we could continue to operate off. This was pre-COVID, just pre-COVID, continue to operate off-site so that everybody still had access to their investment accounts somehow, and that people who were undergoing medical care still had some continuity in their records. So by listening to Ari stop in a calm manner and go through this step by step, that was actually what we were trying to accomplish at that point in time. I think it's easier now to communicate the ROI because the world has changed significantly post-COVID, and people understand that there are things that will affect a business that will force you to either restructure your business immediately overnight or to reposition your workers or reallocate your workers immediately. So the ROI is easier to communicate, but the importance of taking it slow and step by step is going to be what's going to be the difference between the company that comes out on the other side successfully and those who don't. And we've seen that play out in several, natural disasters and also through COVID. So I was, just impressed with the calm way that she took it step by step, because the temptation is, oh, I just give it to Steve and not really figure out exactly what Steve does when you give it to him. And then I was also impressed because if we were wearing a business analyst hat or even future thinking towards an architect role, we actually had the basis of a framework to think in the manner that we should be thinking. So, for her to go through that process and for Dr. Charmain and Zena and I to kind of filter through our questions, we actually played that role, because I've seen that again in financial service. I've seen somebody come in and sit at a desk and say, what do you do? Show me what you do. When you open the form, what do you do next? When you complete it, what do you do next? And the buzzwords in businesses right now are efficiency, profitability, quick to market, and competitive advantage. So this is what this creates. And these are the words that your clients want to hear. They want to hear those words, not, oh, I got this product or I got this app. So I just wanted to share that. So thank you. That was a great session. I really enjoyed it.
Can you repeat those buzzwords as efficiencies?
Efficiency, competitive advantage, profitability, and what was the fourth? There was a fourth one. It's gone completely out of my mind.
It'll be in the recording.
Yeah, it'll be in the recording.
I also just I'm feeling called to say, because I know a lot of us are a lot of us are like solo business owners. Oh, Jonah might not let me say it. But I, did art and soul by myself for a while. So all of these systems and non-systems were in my head. So having Ari is like pulling, half of the business in, it's pulling it into two, right? So I was not able to do these things by myself because it's a conversation with myself saying, oh, well, I don't really need to do that. I can just kind of skip ahead here. I know this needs to be done. I can move this way. So just want to say, like, I mean, what a gift to have like a physical person, obviously, and to have Ari to kind of pull apart, like, oh no, this needs to be step by step by step. This can't just be, oh, I think this way, I can just go ahead and move fast. So all of that, but I also want to say for anyone who's like a solo person, it's hard to be an individual, and like having to pull apart the way your brain works and go this way. So just like, because I know we're talking about change management, I just want to be, not commiserate, but like I'm both amazed and excited, and it's going great, and like it's bumpy internally to shift. So just want to name that for anyone who's like, yeah, I've been doing it myself, and it's hard.
Yeah, Kira, it's really speaking about us and our clients now, it's the difference between startup and scale. So you can spin in startup mode for quite a few years, but the scale really comes when you realize, okay, I have the capacity to do more because I know the thing now, I know the stuff, and I have the capacity to increase my business operations, but this is the work that has to be done in order to do that. So you're absolutely right.
So I know we're at time now. And Ari, unless there's anything else you wanted to add, this is kind of the closing slide. I don't know, Amal, is there anything based on your experience doing this and what you've seen, you want to, just provide some kind of feedback to Ari and to the group?
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm still on. So for what you guys are trained to do and what you guys, what y'all were trained to do, what y'all passed, that was it, right? The only critique that I have is just the observation of the roles. So when you're delivering this as a billable to your client, your operational diagnostics should be where you hand off. So when you talk to them, you say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I'm going to uncover processes. I'm going to stack rank them for you. I'm going to prioritize them for you. I'm going to capture them in their current state so that somebody can teach it to a robot to be automated. There's enough there. I'll give you an example. Non-for-profit hospital called Inspira in New Jersey. We uncovered and we codified 150 use cases. I charged $250,000 for that. Right? So don't think you have to do the entire life cycle, right? Discovery, validation, right? Codification, there's enough money there, right? And for the folks who have their diplomas, you can get about $150 to $200 an hour just to do that. Okay. And then the only thing I would say is please download the operational diagnostic templates because that presentation is your output. I have a very comprehensive one. I'll email it to Zena. It doesn't have to be what you do. I think it's overkill, but that's the one that I got paid pretty well on at the hospital. It's 150 use cases in ambulatory, right? I thought that was, following the ambulance everywhere it went. No, I learned that day that ambulatory is everything that moves in the hospital. Okay, so if you are near healthcare or whatever your passion project is, I usually have the heat maps or I've done an OD. I've done it 52 times so far, so I can help there as well. But I think that was very good. I mean, I can obviously tell that you guys passed. I mean, it's evident, right?
Well, we haven't taken the test yet.
Oh, you have your diploma or no?
We've got the diploma.
Yeah.
We haven't done the test. So
Oh,
you have
okay.
to
So no
do the
search,
final
just diploma.
test.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, okay. Well, good luck there. You only need an 80, but good luck there. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Great. Well, we're at time. Any comments on the rest of the group? All right.
I just want to say, Zena, thank you for making us look good. because we look like we're ready to go to market with this thing. So thank you, my sister.
No.
No.